Have you ever just stared at a math problem and felt like you were reading a different language? You know, words like rational, irrational, integer. It can get super confusing fast. Well, today, we're going to break it all down and make it simple.
And to kick things off, we're going to start with a real homework question from a Reddit user who was totally stuck. This is the exact problem we're going to solve together by the end of this explainer.
And you know what? This user is definitely not alone. It's a really, really common point of confusion. So let's just forget the dense textbook definitions for a minute and build this thing from the ground up, starting from the very beginning.
So, where do we even begin? Well, we're going to start with the very first numbers any of us ever learn, the ones we use to count stuff. Yep, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, all the way up to infinity. These are your bread and butter numbers. If you can point at it and count it, you're using a natural number. Simple, right? These are the absolute foundation. And what's so cool here is just the sheer scale of it all. You can use these numbers to count the 10 eggs in that basket, or you can use them to count the billions and billions of galaxies in the universe. But they have one big limitation. You can't use them to represent having no eggs. For that, we need to add just one more number to our little group. Okay, so let's level up our number game. Let's see what happens when we introduce the idea of nothing, and then something that can feel even weirder, owing someone something. You know, it's hard to imagine now, but the idea of zero was a total game changer for humanity. It first pops up in ancient India, not even as a number we'd recognize, but as this simple dot. It was just a placeholder, a way to tell the difference between, say, 10 and 100. It absolutely revolutionized math.
Okay, so you take those natural or counting numbers we just talked about, and you just add one more thing, 0. Boom. Now you've got a new set called whole numbers. It's that simple, 0, 1, 2, 3, and on. But what about going the other way? Well, if we take all our whole numbers and then we add a perfect mirror image of the counting numbers on the other side, the negatives, we get the set of integers. Think of it as a line stretching out forever in both directions, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3.
But get this was a hugely controversial idea for a long, long time. I mean, we're talking about brilliant people, like the famous mathematician Blaise Pascal, who thought the idea of subtracting 4 from 0 was just utterly absurd. How can you possibly have less than nothing? And this is the visual that made it all click. When you lay numbers out on a line like this, suddenly negative numbers make perfect sense. They aren't some weird abstract concept of less than nothing. They just had a place. They had a direction, to the left of 0. All right, so our number line is looking pretty good. We've got all these nice, evenly spaced integers. But hang on a second. What about all that empty space in between them? This is where the rational numbers jump in. And the key is right there in the name, ratio. A rational number is just any number you can write as a ratio, you know, a fraction, like 1/2, 3/4, or even a whole number like 7, because you can just write it as 7/1. And to help you wrap your head around how all these number groups relate, a Reddit user came up with this absolutely perfect analogy. It's not that they're all separate things, it's that they're nested inside each other, like Russian dolls. This just lays it out perfectly. Think about it like this. All pizzas are Italian food, right? And all Italian food is, well, food. It's the exact same idea with numbers. All the natural numbers are also integers, and all the integers are also rational numbers. Oh, and those whole numbers we mentioned, they fit right in between natural and integers. Think of them as pizza plus plain breadsticks. Still part of the Italian meal, which is still part of the giant category of all food. So you'd think we're done, right? We've got the whole numbers, and we've filled in every possible fraction in between. The line has to be packed solid. But the ancient Greeks stumbled onto something that basically broke their brains. There are still holes. These are the weirdos, the misfits of the number world. Numbers like pi or the square root of 2. You just can't write them as a clean fraction, no matter how hard you try. Their decimals are just this endless, chaotic stream of digits that never ever repeats. And I'm not kidding when I say this discovery was treated like heresy. I mean, the Pythagoreans, their whole worldview was built on these clean, perfect ratios. And this just shattered it. The legend is that the guy who spilled the beans was literally thrown from a ship and drowned for it. That's how serious this was. So here's the bottom line. It really comes down to this one simple test. can you write it as a fraction? If the decimal ends or it gets into a nice, neat repeating loop, then yes, you can. It's rational. But if that decimal just goes on forever into chaos, it's irrational. And a number can only be one or the other. They're on totally separate teams. All right, we've got all our categories straight. Let's put everything together and finally go back and crack that homework problem. So when you take all the rational numbers, the fractions, and you use the irrational numbers to plug up all those mysterious little holes, you finally get what's called the real number line, a perfectly smooth, continuous line with absolutely no gaps. Okay, the moment of truth. With everything we've just learned, let's look at that question one more time. The number is -15. So what is it?
Let's run it down the list. Is it a natural number? Nope, you can't count with negatives, so it's not a whole number either, since those start at 0 and only go up. Is it an integer? Yes, absolutely. It's a whole number, just on the negative side. And here's the key part. Since it's an integer, is it rational? Yes, again, because we can write it as a fraction, -15/1. And finally, if it's rational, there's no way it can be irrational.
So there you have it. 2 is the magic number. Out of all those options, -15 is both an integer and a rational number. So we've mapped out this entire beautiful real number line. It feels complete, right? But let me leave you with a little question. What happens if you try to do something that seems impossible? Like take the square root of a negative number. Well, that, my friends, is where things get really interesting. It opens up a whole new world of numbers you might not have even heard of, proving that in math, there's always another secret to uncover.